It says, congratulations, Nordonia Seniors. Everyone.
You shaved?
It's hard to make out. There we go. There we go. Let's zoom in. Woo! There we go. Congratulations, Nordonia Seniors. We got it on film. My focus is going out. There we go. We got it. There we go. There's the airplane. Yeah, has a hard time picking up. There you go. Cut. There you go. It has a hard time because it's going at, oh, it's two airplanes. People.
Elizabeth! You're trying to watch Netflix, man. Like, stop. Yeah, we got this. They're very good. Get off YouTube. I Yeah, slow it down there. You did? No, it would always be with. Whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Also read the radio. Oh, yeah, someone's got to get on the radio.
Yeah, I know too. Start recording this, no? I know it's recording.
6 feet apart, boys.
In the concession lines and bathroom lines. It doesn't matter if you're buying. The coronavirus only comes out here. Yeah. And then fly.
Welcome to the graduation ceremony of the class of 2020. Let's be honest. Look around you. Some of you are watching this streamed over the internet right now. Some of you are watching this in your car at a drive-in movie theater. First, let me give a huge thank you to Community Focus. Your work during this production has been amazing, and we're appreciative of everything you've done. Another thank you to Vendetti Studio. Thank you for taking time of care with each and every one of our graduates. And the photos you took are amazing. Thank you for what you've done. Over the past month, I've had this repeated dream. I'd lose sleep every night, wondering what to say to these students. What do I say to students that were born just after the terrible events of September 11th and now will graduate during a pandemic? Students, you have a unique life experience. These experiences have the potential to turn your generation into one that can change the world. and there's so much that needs to be changed. Each night I fall asleep, heard a voice over and over. Parents, if you've ever seen the movie Field of Dreams, when Kevin Costner was standing in the cornfield and you hear the voice, if you build it, they will come. It was just like that. Although it kept saying, don't be afraid. I was sure this was a voice of my father who passed away years ago, telling me not to be afraid. Each night, I would hear this voice. Until one night I heard the voice say something else. It would say, to be awesome. I could swore I heard this before. I just couldn't remember where. More sleepless nights. Each night hearing the statement, don't be afraid to be awesome. Don't be afraid to be awesome. It was almost like watching the famous play, A Christmas Carol, over and over again. And suddenly I realized who this was. This was our band director. If you're a band student, you've heard this time and time again. You may have even had the same nightmares that I did. Don't be afraid to be awesome. Don't be afraid to be awesome. As a high school staff, this became our mantra. Over and over again, we made plans, and then new plans, and then changed those plans, and then made parallel plans. And each time we decided to say, let's make this awesome. When we planned the parade, we said, let's make this awesome. And a special thank you to Police Chief Gold, our Macedonia Police Chief, who helped make that happen. Thank you. When we planned today's graduation, what a wonderful 5 days that was. It was full of smiles and tears and pictures. Lots of pictures. That was awesome. Speaking of that, I would be amiss not to thank some incredible people on my administrative team. A huge thank you to Miss Archer, Mr. Buckler, Mr. Eckenrode, Mr. Fox, and by far the one that keeps us all together, my secretary, Miss Esty Pizniski. Thank you. If you got a chance to see what I see every day, you too would be amazed. Like many of you, I had a standing appointment at 1 p.m. At 1 p.m. every day, I'd watch Dr. Clark on his Facebook Live. We watched him give updates of the decisions the district is making, and as he's my boss, and I am legally bound to follow his directives, and I consider myself to be a good employee, I did what he said to do. We learned that Dr. Clark is a very wise man, and he's correct about many things. First, he gave us advice on where to buy the best bacon. Dr. Clark, you are correct. This is the best bacon. He gave us the best advice on where to buy the best pretzels. Reineker's, you are correct, has the best pretzels. And yes, just like you, we all fell in love with his dog Frankie and his love of what he called chicken nuggets. Dr. Clark, I could not find chicken nuggets in the grocery store, so I found these. They're chicken shaped like dinosaurs. Dr. Clark, I'm pretty sure you should not be feeding these to your dog. However, more than that, Dr. Clark, you've been the calm during this storm. You are a true leader, and we are lucky to have you as our superintendent. Dr. Clark would add that he does not do this alone. He has a great team. Our curriculum director, Todd Stewart, Pupil Services Director, Carrie Hutchinson, Business Director, Matt Gogler, and Technology Director, Mike West. Another person that needs to be thanked is our award-winning treasurer, Karen Overton. She has a way of stretching our funding even farther than many of us could ever imagine. Thank you for everything you do. In the next couple of years, you definitely have your work cut out for you. To our Board of Education, you've been incredible during this time. We've seen the board in Zoom meetings, Google Hangouts. You have changed and then changed again. We have watched you adapt during this crisis, and you have shown us how great leaders adapt and change. To our President, Tammy Strong, our Vice President, Chad Warner, and our board members, Judith Matlin, William Bussey, and Liz McKinney. You've been awesome, and thank you for everything. Students, as you graduate and pass from grade to grade, many teachers assisted you in attaining your goal. It is often said that you can tell who your real friends are during times of crisis. Judging by the way everybody is responding to this crisis, this community is blessed to have many friends in our school. Thank you for everything you've done to help our students through this crisis. And thank you for what you have done for this graduating class. The class of 2020 asked me to thank 3 staff members. They owe a great deal of gratitude to Mr. and Mrs. Spellman, our senior class advisors, and Miss Stacy Ross, the class of 2020 guidance counselor. Thank you for everything you've done. Students, as you're well aware, you could not accomplish this all alone. Tonight we have parents, grandparents, family and friends who are joining you to celebrate this remarkable accomplishment. Thank you for all the support you've given our students over the years and all the support you've given our schools. Tonight, we know would not be possible without you. Now to the class of 2020. You've worked hard, you've challenged yourself to be the best you can be, you've labored for knowledge, you've opened your mind to new ideas, and you've done all this and you've succeeded. Tonight is your graduation night. Tonight we get to celebrate everything you've accomplished. This graduating class has set a high academic standard. Thus far, your class has earned scholarship monies in excess of $8 million. You have achieved on the athletic fields, the arts, the theater, and the music stage. However, even more impressive is you've given more than 16,000 hours of service back to our community. For that, our community is incredibly thankful. And we all look forward to what you will do in the future to make this world a better place. Students, I know I speak of our entire staff and our community in saying thank you. The truth is, we've met all of you over these last 4 years. For me, it was not the work you did in the classroom, on the athletic field, or the stage that I'll remember most. It is how you responded to this crisis. This graduating class will not be forgotten. The way you responded has been inspiring. To remember everything that's happened this year, several members of our community have donated this time capsule you see next to me. In 25 years, this capsule will be opened, and it will remember everything that's happened over this year. Here's what I'm going to remember. Your class motto is this: the obstacles that are in your way are meant to stop you. They're designed to point you into a new route, new possibilities, and new doorways. These last few months have been like anything we've ever seen. The rate at which our life has changed has been dizzying. And the challenges we all face cannot be overstated. COVID-19 has impacted everyone on some level. As a result, we have watched the world come together under the power of community. From our first day you entered one of our buildings, and for some of you, that was 13 years ago, you became a member of our family. And as such, if there's any way that we ever can help you, please remember this: you are not in this alone. The resilience you've seen around the world is present right here in Nordonia. Our mission statement is this: we want to inspire every student to value learning, community, and excellence. And this statement has never been truer than it is right now. During the beginning days of this pandemic, we saw stories of our students volunteering to babysit our community's children as their parents were essential workers. Or countless number of you who packed food for students on the weekends through our Nights Care for Nights program. Or the untold number of you that went to work during this pandemic at our local grocery stores when they were in need of additional workers. Or others who wrote letters to our seniors or elderly who were missing their families because of limitations placed on visits to our senior living communities. The values of our Nordonia communities continue to shine, and you, our graduates, will take us into the future, as uncertain as it may seem. Students, thank you for the ways that you embodied what's best about being in Nordonia night. You are an essential part of our community, and we will get through this together. So what's the moral of this story? What is the lesson we all learned? It can be simply this: be awesome. Life is going to throw many things at you. Most of them are going to be great. Some of them are going to be awful, like a pandemic. When this happens, say to yourself, don't be afraid to be awesome. To the class of 2020, congratulations on everything you've accomplished. On behalf of the faculty and staff at Nordonia High School, we want to offer our congratulations and best of luck to each and every one of you. Stay safe, be well, and when the world gets back to some kind of routine, we really look forward to seeing you all again. At this time, I'd like to introduce our class officers who will begin our ceremony. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Delaney Baggiani, and along with my fellow class officers, Madison Knight, Matt Lois, Simon Dillon, and Lee Walker, we welcome you to the Class of 2020 graduation ceremony. As we all know, this year wasn't what we expected it to be, but we made the most of our memories we had at Nordonia High School these past 4 years together. Whether it be our final mosh pits in Bolian Stadium, or our last semi-PG-13 homecoming dance, we all share memories that will last a lifetime. Now is the time we all go our own ways, whether that be going to college, trade school, taking a gap year, helping serve the nation, or whatever path you choose. We all are ready to embark on the next chapter of our lives, with a bonus of being named graduates of the front class.
A big thanks to all the staff, administrators, and our amazing teachers. I can't even begin to name every single one of you because I'd be here for a while. An extra big thank you to our senior advisor, Ms. Spellman, who's been our mom inside and out of school. We know that this year wasn't like the others, but we will have a special place in our hearts for you. All of our administrators have done so much to make us feel loved and really make sure we are getting the senior year we worked so hard for 13 years to get to. From the entire class of 2020, I want to personally thank everyone that has shown their love and support through this tough time. It really makes us feel special. Today is evidence that we can achieve anything in life, but let's not be satisfied with this. Let's keep going and never stop. We did it.
The people we have crossed paths with during our time at Nordonia are those who will always hold special places in our hearts. We may not remember the classrooms, the equations and facts, or any of the academic lessons we've learned. However, we will remember the people. I have been lucky enough to have met people who I know will be in my life far past high school, and I'm sure many of you feel the same way. These people that we came across are important because they are all part of our journey of not just school, but of growing up. Thanks to all the people who have challenged us, made us laugh and smile, and supported us through this journey, we are better because of it.
When we walked into those front doors in August of 2016, we were all a little terrified. Ever since then, we've been hit with changes. Instead of being classes of only people in our grade, suddenly the school had us surrounded by upperclassmen in study halls. Instead of getting a regular diploma, the state decided to hit us with 5 more specialized ones that we had to plan out multiple times in advance before achieving. And instead of spending the last few months in the walls between Nordonia High School, the world decided to hit us with a pandemic that kept us all at home. Through all of this, we've already conquered one of the greatest struggles of the real world, becoming resilient to change. I know that right now, none of us would have imagined that our time here would end and feel so short, but one day we'll feel like our time here could have filled a novel. So as we run off and on one path and start onto another, let's never forget where we learned how to walk, Nordonia High School. The class of 2020 would like to invite Aiden McFerrin to perform.
class of 2020 welcomes Maggie Thompson, who will represent our class while giving a speech.
Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to introduce myself to all of you. If this is the first time you're meeting me, or even if you've actually had a class with me, this is probably the longest you've ever heard me talk. My name is Maggie Thompson, and I'm obviously a member of the graduating class of 2020. Before I continue, I would like to say that I know that this year hasn't been exactly what all of us expected. However, I would hate to do you a disservice by droning on and on about the things that we already know. So instead, I would like to spend the next couple minutes talking about the reason we're all here today and kind of the elephant in the room, which is the big, the uncertain, and the scary, which is the future. So what do you think can happen in an hour? In an hour, I'm pretty sure that you could be halfway to Columbus. Even in 30 minutes, you could clean your room or maybe do a workout. In 10 minutes, you could, in theory, make minute rice 10 times or probably call your grandma like you probably should have last week. If you're anything like me, then in 30 seconds, you could get an idea for a graduation speech after spending hours writing something else. I'm sure you understand where I'm going with this, and if you don't, then I'll explain it to you by telling you something that you've probably heard before. And that would be that time is precious. Time is so precious, but time is wasted and time is limited. In 2017, the average person lived to be about 79 years old. Did you know that year on average, people spend about 33 years in bed, 26 of those sleeping, about 13 years working, 4 years eating, 3 years on social media, you get the point. The time spent on most of these things is out of our control. However, my point is here is that I looked it up, and after all of it boils down, you only have about 17 and a half years of your life to actually live. When I first read that statistic, I was a little uncomfortable. The week you spent heartbroken over a boy freshman year, the hours you spend studying for a test you ultimately end up failing, and the months you've spent in quarantine thanks to COVID-19, even the time you spent listening to me talk, all of this time seems so precious all of a sudden, and that time you once saw as disposable or infinite might feel wasted or lost. I had this fantasy in my head that when I turned 18, I would be able to stay out until whenever I wanted to do cool adult things, that I was no longer a baby. It didn't take long for me to realize that this was far from the truth. I wasn't an adult, I was 17 years and 366 days old. I was in high school and I was still a kid. For a long time, I had the same feeling about graduation, like it didn't really mean anything. But now I realize that there is literally no time like the present. After tonight, I know that each and every one of your heads will be swimming with emotions. That is, what's next? For me, and I'm sure a lot of others, the future means graduate, go to college, get a job, get married, have kids, and get old and die. That is a very cut and dry explanation of the American dream, but I urge you to live your dream. I don't know you, and I don't know your story, but I do know that today you're being given something that everybody in this room would love to have, which is a blank slate in the game of life. Allow tonight to be the moment that makes you reevaluate how you spend your time going forward. I, for one, know that I've made so many empty promises to myself throughout my time at Nordonia. Next year I'll start studying. Next year I'll start dressing up for Spirit Week. I'll spend more time with my family. I'll call people more. Those empty promises don't stop in high school. Changes you commit to are what make up your life. My dad used to tell me that life is all about choices. It's the time you choose to spend with family, friends, or even strangers. The time you choose to spend working for your dream job, or the time you spend watching the Tiger King documentary on Netflix. Going forward, I don't want you to feel the time you've put in has been wasted, but take this opportunity you're being given to make the right choices. Spend your time wisely and do what makes you happy. Have you realized that up until now, most of your days have been planned out for you? How many times you said, I can't, I have to be up for school tomorrow. I can't, I have baseball practice. I can't, I have musical auditions. The point being is that there is no longer a bell to tell you to move from one point to the other. No longer someone standing in front of you to tell you right from wrong, and certainly no one to tell you to take your hat off well indoors. There will be people around you continuing to push you in one direction or the other. However, now is the time in your life where you're meant to go forward and do something. It's not tomorrow because tomorrow is today. You finally made it, and you're being thrown into the rat race of life. I know that I'm only 18, but trust me when I tell you that you have the tools to go forward and make something great. Your parents, your teachers, and classmates are urging you to show the world you didn't sit in school for 12 years only to sit around and continue to dream about tomorrow. This is the time to separate thinking from doing. If you ask me, then I would tell you it's called a dream for a reason. However, truly living is what makes your fantasy a reality. It's being brave enough to trade your dreams for experiences. When you look at your diploma for the first time, I want you to look at it
it like a brand new hunk of Play-Doh. It's new, it's exciting, and the best part is you can make it into anything you want it to be. Those 17 and a half years we talked about earlier are where you spend the world showing who you are and making the world what you want it to be. It's not all about the years you spend sleeping or in bed or on social media or any of that. It's about doing the most you can for as long as you can, and most importantly doing what makes you happy. Not the person to your left or your right or your parents or you when you were 6 years old, but the you that's listening to this right now. The future isn't scary or uncertain in the end, it's whatever you want it to be. So after tonight, I want you to think about the bright, the limitless future, because in this moment right now, it's welcoming you with open arms, and all I ask is what you're waiting for. Thank you.
The class of 2020 would like to invite Julia Zaborski, who will be doing a performance.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos and memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. Unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
The class of 2020 would like to introduce our superintendent, Dr. Clark, No Snow Joe.
I come from a big family. I think a lot of you knew that. I've said many times before, I'm the youngest of 11. I have 10 older brothers and sisters, but most of you don't know what that was like growing up. So let me tell you a little bit about it. Not only was I the youngest of 11, but my dad had an identical twin brother who also had 11 kids. And we lived next door to each other growing up. So it was 22 kids running around on this plot of land. It was about 5 acres, and we lived in Talmadge, but it was hardly suburbia. The best way to describe it would be Cousin Eddie. You know Cousin Eddie from Christmas Vacation? Well, parents, you've probably seen the original Vacation. Cousin Eddie's farm, that's what our house was kind of like. We lived on a dead-end street. Vanover Road in Talmadge was mostly blacktop, and it was paved all the way up until it got to our driveway, and then it switched to dirt. It was literally a dirt road we grew up on, and there were 22 kids and 5 acres, and it looked a lot like Cousin Eddie's. I mean, it was not a farm, but it was a farm. We had a worm bed. We had a horse named King. We had a cow named Daisy. We had ducks, Ping and Pong. We had a sheep named Jellybean. Our dog Corky was some little ratty mutt dog. I don't know what he was, but he was tied up outside with a chain and attached to a big metal pipe we'd pounded halfway into the ground. And that's where he stayed. We had hundreds of chickens. We had rabbits. I tell people these next two things, and most people don't believe me, but it's true. We had a pet raccoon who stayed in our house with us until he started getting mean, and we also, at one point, had a pet alligator. Just a baby, and not for very long, but it was like Wild Kingdom on our property. It was much like a farm. A lot of our yard was used for a tree farm, but we also had rows and rows of vegetables growing. Corn and tomatoes and peppers and strawberries and beans and all of those kinds of things. And our parents would make us weed the garden. And if we did it well, they gave us half a popsicle, which was like nectar to us. And my yard was also part junkyard. My dad is a huge collector of stuff. He's more American pickers than hoarders, but either way, it was not healthy. And so anywhere around our yard, you would see just mountains of stuff. We had a chicken coop that was full of chickens that later became full of stuff. We had a shed that we used to sleep out in that later became full of stuff. My dad built a barn out of old Army ammunition boxes that was full of stuff. He built an additional two-car garage that was full of stuff. And so we had lots and lots of stuff. And stuff that wouldn't fit in the buildings would fit in the yard. So we would have, like most of you might have, an axle of a 58 Ford Falcon with wheels sitting in our yard. My dad was in the rubber industry. He ran presses. And I know he was an honest man, so I'm not saying he stole these, but what I am saying is, for some reason, we had mountains and mountains of rubber mats, floor mats and bed liner mats stacked up in our yard. We had a mini bike made with a chainsaw engine, without tires, sitting in our yard. And again, this was the 70s, and we were poor. I didn't realize we were poor until after I got older, and we spent most of our days, like a lot of kids in the 70s, outside, all day, barefoot. We owned shoes, but we never wore them, and so our feet were, absolutely disgusting. They were dirty and calloused and gross, and our hands were the same way because we'd spend our days playing with chunks of rusty metal and splintery boards. We'd just play outside all day with dangerous things. To give you an idea, I was in third grade and I was at school and we were talking about reptiles. The teacher asked, "Does anybody know what kind of skin reptiles have?" And Mark Warzinski shouted from the back of the room, "Yeah, it's like Joe Clark's." So it was something else. And we would play. We would play all day outside, all sorts of games. And it wasn't unusual at my house, that you're walking around barefoot and whoops, hey, stepped on a nail. And there's a nail sticking through your foot. But it got even more dangerous at night when we would be outside playing. Kids, we played outside in those days, barefoot, in the dark. And we would play games like Catch One, Catch a Bunch, which is a game where you catch one and then you catch a bunch. It was a tag game. Somebody was it, and everybody else hides around the 5 acres. Whoever's it finds somebody and tries to tag them. And when he does, now two people are in, and they try to find the next person. But if you're found, you're not caught until they tag you, so there's running. And it was not unusual. In fact, several times in my life, I'd be running through the yard as fast as I can, barefoot, in the dark, and there, where our dog was, chained up outside, chained to a giant metal pole, I would kick that pole. And it would hurt like crazy, and it would stop you right in your tracks. And this would happen to everybody. You might be hiding under a pine tree, say, and suddenly, somewhere in the distance, you'd hear a kid screaming in pain. "You okay?" "Yeah, ran into the axle." There was another time, there was a kid who was not one of the cousins, and he wasn't one of my family. He was like some visiting kid, I guess, who didn't know the yard that well. And we were playing Catch One, Catch a Bunch, and he ran straight into the barbed wire fence. And I've been thinking to myself, that's a lot like this school year, We were moving along so well. We were in March. We were getting close to spring break. And all of a sudden, bam! We ran into that barbed wire fence. We stubbed our toe on that pole. And it ended abruptly. abruptly. That's not fair. It's not fair to you guys. The last few months are supposed to be the best months of senior year, and it was taken from you. And that's not a fair thing. And my job is to address the senior class, and I'm sitting here thinking, how do I address this class who's been through so much? Before we move on, by the way, as I was trying to come up with a metaphor, of stubbing your toe or stopping abruptly, I also considered telling the story of the time I walked into a parking meter at Niagara Falls, and also the time I tried to jump through a glass door at church, not realizing that it was glass, just to give you kind of an idea of what a klutz are. Anyway, here we are. We're running through the yard, boom, stub our toe, and we spend the last 47 days of senior year at home. So how do I address this class? Typically when I give a graduation speech, I do several things. People put pressure on me because my speeches are generally well received, and people say, I can't wait for next year. I can't wait for next year. But really, the truth is, I typically follow a formula every year. I change the stories a bit, but the outline is almost always the same. I always start with a joke about this big fuzzy hat. That would be typical. I warm the crowd up with a joke about how stupid I look in the fuzzy hat. But the truth is, this year the fuzzy hat's doing me a favor. Guys, I have not had a haircut in 4 months. I'm glad I'm allowed to wear this ugly hat to cover up my ugly head. And by the way, Dimitri's Barbershop, guys, I love you and I miss you, and I can't wait until I can get back to get my hair cut. I'm going to give you an idea of how awful this is.
So the fuzzy hat joke isn't going to work.
Next, I always tell a joke about snow days. In my speech, I always dig at you guys for abusing me on Twitter and teasing back and forth about snow days. And all of a sudden, snow days aren't that funny anymore. You've had 47 days off school. I think we can all agree that you would go back in a heartbeat. It's cruel to joke about snow days when your school year was so disrupted. So the snow day joke goes out the window. Next, I typically make some sort of reference to Mr. Broman. But Mr. Broman retired. He's not here. Well, at least I think he's not here. He loves you guys, and actually he probably is here. Mr. Broman, if you're here, please honk your horn. And if you're munching on a box of Raisinets, please honk twice.
We knew it would be hard to replace Mr. Broman.
But what we didn't know was that with Mr. Broman leaving, we would actually have to shut down school.
Then the final thing I do is give you some
advice about living. But you've already been doing it. I would typically tell you to be kind to one another. But you already are. Over the last few months, I've seen you babysitting families in need, going to the grocery store for senior citizens who can't leave their homes, donating and helping with Nights Caring for Nights, tutoring classmates who need some help, creating cards and letters for folks in the assisted living centers. I don't need to remind you to care for one another. In fact, over the past few months, you've been the model for the rest of us to follow. I typically tell you to get off the couch and do something. But the $8 million in scholarships you've earned shows me that you have been. The 19,000 hours of community service you've done. The student-led cleaning of our school grounds. All of you I see working around town. That's all evidence to me of your work ethic, your drive, your desire to do great things. In my usual graduation speech, I would tell you to dream big. But then I remember our girls' basketball team beating Wadsworth twice and having their best season in school history. I remember our hockey team winning the division, our bowling team going to states, our band and choirs earning all superior ratings at OMEA. All the advice I would usually give at my graduation speech becomes redundant for the class of 2020. I don't need to tell you how to be successful. You already are successful, and we are so proud of you. There is one thing I can say at this graduation that I never have before, though. Families, you have great kids who have done incredible things. So on the count of 3, can we please show them how much we love them by blowing our horns? All right, here we go, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Nordonia High School Class of 2020, congratulations. You will always be Knights, and you will always be welcome home. Thank you.
legend, man.
Dr. Clark, members of the Board of Education, I certify that the following members of the class of 2020 successfully completed all the requirements established by the Board of Education in the state of Ohio. The class of 2020 will now present itself for graduation. At this time, I typically ask people to hold their applause so all names can be heard. I beg people not to use air horns, which nobody really listens to me. But at tonight's graduation, I ask for something different. I ask for the opposite. When you see your student, blow your horns. By the way, I've always wanted to do this back to you.
Flash your lights. We want to celebrate with you.
Flash your lights. We want to celebrate with you. Graduates, as you watch you receive your diploma, we will be playing songs from our very talented and entertaining music group, Synergy. Congratulations, and let's celebrate.
something I'm giving up on. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something. Something always brings me back to you. Never takes too long. No matter what I say to you, stay for you here till the moment I'm gone. You hold me. Never wanted anything so much than to drown in your love, and I feel your rain. Set me free, leave me be. I don't wanna fall another moment into your gravity. Just the way I'm supposed to be. But you're you loved me 'cause I'm fragile. When I thought that I was strong, but you set me everything I think I need here on the ground. But you're not a friend, no phone, no, I can't seem to let you go. The one thing that I still know is that you're keeping me down.
so well. I've been blind. Oh, I'll be fine. Don't call me back. No. Yes, I see light now. It's alright. Call my name. I'll be me soon. Just like you need it. I need this time to clear out my mind. Did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. Did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? No, it's not personal. Sorry if I'm hurting you. Please don't give up on me now. I needed this time alone. Prove I could come back home to breathe, breathe, breathe. Yes, just like you need it, just like you need it. I need this time to clear out my mind. Wait, did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. Did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. Explorers on the ocean, setting their waves in emotion. And like how a single word can make a heart open. I only have one match, I can make an explosion. And all the things I didn't say.
Tell me something, girl.
Let's go!
Or do you need more? Is there something else you are searching for? In all the good times I find myself longing for change. In all the bad times I fear myself.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. In all the good times I find myself longing for change. And in the bad times I fear myself. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. In the shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, we're far from the shallow now. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now. In the shallow, in the shallow, in the shallow, we're far from the shallow now.
I was running on an empty heart, not a trace of gasoline. Trying to dim every single spark that could burn all of me. Like a soldier on a battleground, lying wounded on the field. I was fighting alone with a broken sword. Now I'm caught in a war with no shield. If you
Yes, Hunter!
I push and pull all the ones I tried, but then I watch them fade away. As I look around the vacant room, I see nobody left here to play. Now I call myself a brave.
She won!
I see you break through the way at the walls, take them fall. chains out? Is your tongue tied up? 'Cause this is my ground and I'm dangerous. And you can get off 'cause it's all about me tonight. So you say I'm complicated, that I must be out of my mind. Well, you have me underrated, rated. Oh, what's wrong with being confident? Oh, what's wrong with being confident? So you say I'm complicated. Oh, you have me underrated, rated. What's wrong with being confident? Oh, what's wrong with being confident? Oh, what's wrong with being confident? Oh, what's wrong with being confident? Oh. All right, okay. Return of the Mac, hit it what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Looking for a better way to get up out of bed, say, get it on the internet and shining and hitting it up. Push up, pinch your walking, a little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious, somewhere between like Rocky, Cosby, sweating, getting up, y'all can't copy. Yup, and and we did it. Pro music, I shed my skin and put my bones into everything I record to it. And yeah, I'm go and shine on down. Got that Bob Barker suit game and Plinko in my style. Money, stand my craft and stick around for those pounds. But I do that to pass the torch and put on for my town. Trust me, I'm a INDEPENDENT, 'cause hustling, chasing dreams since we were 14. With the perfect track, buzzing, halfway across that city with the fat cat crushing. Labels out here, but they can't tell me nothing. You give that to the people, spread it across the country. Yeah, labels out here, but they can't tell me nothing. You give that to the people, spread it across the country.
Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over, so we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over, so we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Now, can I kick it? Thank you. I'm so dang grateful. I grew up really wanting to go but that's what you get when Nordonia raised you. Y'all can't stop me. Go hard like I got a way to wait in my heartbeat. Enemy at the beat like I give it a speed to a great white shotgun shark beat. Raw, till we go up, gone. This is goodbye. I got a world to see, and my girl, she wanna see Rome. Caesar make you a believer now. I never ever did for a throne. The validation comes from giving it back to the people now. Sing this song and it goes like raise those hands. This is our party. We came here to live life like nobody was watching. I got my city right behind me in my phone. It got me learn from that failure, gain humility, and then we keep marching ourselves.
This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over, so we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over, so we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Until we put our hands up. Until we put our hands up. This is the moment. Oh yeah, so we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Aren't you so if you ever feel alone and the clear makes me hard to find, just know that I'm always parallel on the other side. 'Cause with your hand in my hand, in a pocket full of soul, I can tell you there's no place you can go. Just put your hand on the glass, I'll be trying to prove to you, so you just gotta be strong. 'Cause I don't wanna lose you now. I'm looking right at the other half of me. The vacancy that's set in my heart is a space that now you hold. Show me how to fight for now. And I'll tell you, babe, it was easy coming back into you once I figured it out. You were right here all along. It's like you're my mirror. My mirror staring back at me. I couldn't get any bigger with anyone else beside of me. And now it's clear as it's promise that we're making two reflections. 'Cause it's like you're my mirror. My mirror staring back at me, staring back at me. Aren't you something in the vision? 'Cause it doesn't seem nearly as simple. And I get up the stairs, I see truth somewhere in your eyes. Oh, I can never change without you. You reflect me, I love that about you. And if I could, I would look at us all the time. 'Cause with your hand in my hand, in a pocket full of soul, I can tell you there's no place we couldn't go. Just put your hand on the glass, I'll be trying to pull you through. You just gotta be strong. 'Cause I don't wanna lose you now. I'm looking right at the other half of me. The vacancy that's set in my heart is a space that now you hold. Show me how to fight for now. And I tell you, babe, it was easy coming back into you once I figured it out. You were right here all along. It's like you're my mirror. My mirror staring back at me. I couldn't get any bigger with anyone else beside of me. It's like you're my mirror. My mirror staring back at me, staring back at me.
No balls. No balls this way. Lock up.
That dude showed me his bare ass.
Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm feeling so small. It was over my head. Nothing at all.
something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I wanna follow you. Say something, I'm giving up on you.
I definitely saw
Say something.
Bro, Brady.
Say something.
I think we can just
Something always brings me back to you. No matter what I say to you, I still feel you here till the moment I'm gone. You hold me without touch. You keep me without chains. Never wanted anything so much than to drown in your love and not feel your pain. Set me free, leave me be. I don't wanna fall another moment into your gravity. shock. I can't cry, pop. I need some space. No, this isn't me. Please let me breathe. I'll be back sooner than you know. I need this space just like you need it. I need this time to clear out my mind. Wait, did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I really need this. Well, I've been blind. Oh, I'll be fine. Don't call me back. No. Yes, I see light now. It's alright. Call my name. I'll be me soon. Oh, just like you need it. I need this time to clear Did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. Did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. No, it's not personal. Sorry if I'm hurting you. Please don't give up on me now. I needed this time alone. Prove I could come back home to breathe, breathe, breathe. Yes, just like you need it, just like you need it. I need this time to clear out my mind. Wait, did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. Did you hear that? Hear my heartbeat? I need this feeling. Like small boats on the ocean, setting wheels in motion. And like how a single word can make a heart open. I only have one match, make an explosion. And all the things I didn't say, wrecking balls on my brain. I will scream on loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. And take back my lifestyle. I prove I'm alright, so my power's stronger. Starting right now, I'll be strong. Now feel my right song. And I don't really care if nobody else believes.
Oh yeah,
Losing friends and I'm chasing sleep.
I know they win.
Everybody
Yes,
will
sir.
be
Yes, sir. Yeah, Luke.
Fire burning in my bones. I still believe. Yeah, I still believe. And all those things I didn't say, wrecking balls inside my brain. I will scream loud tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. I take back my lifestyle. I prove I'm alright, so
was searching for. I'm falling. In all the good times, I find myself longing for change. In all the bad times, I fear myself.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill that void? Or do you need Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore? I'm falling. And all the good times for change. And in the bad times I fear myself. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash to the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow. In the shallow.
Tuesday, check him out!
In the shallow. In the shallow. We're far from the shallow now. Oh, 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 we're far from the shallow now.
At the bottom.
I would now like to invite the class of 2020 to turn their tassels from right to left to symbolize our graduation from high school.
Students, congratulations on your graduation. You are now alumni of Nordonia High School. If you're in your car, step out right now. Join us as we sing one more time our alma mater. After that, we'll watch our senior slideshow, which was created by our senior class officers. We'll then conclude with an amazing firework display. Students, thank you for everything you've done. We wish you the best of luck, and please remember when you go out into the world, please be awesome.
Dear Nordonia, hail to thee. Very simple
Green and white will symbolize
dreams that realize. Singing while our hearts are ringing.
to our dear Nordonia. Nordonia High.
As Elwood said, we did it! There's Matt! Matt! Oh my god! Oh yeah! No, I'm out of my room. up, Big D!
I think so. Somewhere right there. Yeah. Woo! That's it. Yeah! Woo! Hug your horn. Hug the horn. Ma! Just a little bit. Woo! Yeah. Oh. Happy New Year. I'm skipping. Happy 4th of July. Happy senior year. Happy graduation. Yeah! Yeah. Oh yeah! That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this program. Thank you for watching. Happy congratulations to all seniors.